You can use Google Slides to make an interactive activity for your students to complete. In this particular lesson, we'll show you how to add a video, as well as shapes and text boxes, as well as a table where you have questions for students to respond to. In either your email or Google, find the app launcher and click Google Slides. To get started, click blank for a blank presentation. We're going to close the theme because we don't need a theme today, and we're going to remove both of these text boxes. The easiest way to delete these two text boxes is to use your mouse to drag over both of them. Once they both have the perimeter highlighted in blue, you can click on your delete or backspace key on your keyboard to remove them. We now have a clean slate. In order to make sure we have enough room for our video as well as questions, we are going to resize this Google slide. Go to File, scroll down to Page Setup. From here, change from widescreen to custom. In this case, I'm going to make it 12 by 8 inches, but you can choose any size that you want. And click Apply. Now that my slide is resized, I can go about inserting the items that I want in this particular Google slide for my students to interact with. The first thing I'm going to do is insert a video. I have a video here on the California Gold Rush that I've previewed and jotted down a few questions about. I'm going to click the share arrow here and click copy. Going back to my presentation, and I'm going to click Insert Video. Since I've grabbed the URL for the video, I'm going to click By URL and paste it in here. There's my video. I click Select, and it inserts it into my Google slide. Now it's placed it in the corner here, but if I want, I can pick it up and move it so that you can see the red outline shows me that it's up in the corner. Again, you can choose to place this anywhere on your slide that you would like. To resize a video, simply grab the corner and pull it outward. You do not want to grab from the sides, as it will stretch out your video, or from the bottom, it will do the same. So always when resizing, to keep it in proportion, grab from the corner. I think I'm going to put it right about there. The next thing I want to do is insert a text box with my first question. To insert a text box, you can either go to the icon here in the toolbar. When you hover over it, it will tell you what it's for. You can also go to Insert Text Box. Use your mouse to draw your text box, and then type what you would like your first question to be. Once you've typed your instructions, simply highlight and then you can format the text. You can change the font as well as the font size. You can either click on the number and find a font that fits perfectly for you, or you can incrementally go up by clicking the plus sign or the minus sign. You can also bold, italicize, and underline. Now, since this is the question that I want for my students and I need a space for them to respond, I'm going to use a shape. You can get to shapes either on the toolbar or Insert, Shape, and choose either a shape, an arrow, callouts, or an equation. I'm going to go with a rounded rectangle. I simply place it in by drawing where I would like it to land. To change the color of my text box, once its perimeter is selected, I can go to the fill color and choose a different color. I'm going to go with a light yellow. I can also change the border color as well as the border weight. You can see that it stands out a little better for my students. Now, since this is a shape, it is also a text box. When you double click in it, you will see a cursor. Now, since I'm asking my students to write 3 facts about the gold rush, I may want my font to be a little larger. So all I need to do is change the font and the font size. And anytime my students type, it will type in the font that I've chosen. Now the shape is a text box for my students to respond to the question above. I also have 3 questions that I want to ask students, and I want to place them in a table. So I'm going to Insert, Table, and since I know I have 3 questions and I need 3 lines for my students to respond to, I'm going to do a table that is 1 by 6. You can pick up your table. Notice how my mouse changes to a plus sign with arrows and drag it where I want it. So I want it here. I'm going to enlarge this just a little bit, as well as scoot this over. To resize. I'm going to add my 3 questions. After I've added my first question, this is where my students will respond. So I'm going to skip a cell and come to the next one to type my next question. Again, I will skip a cell and come to this cell to write my final question. Now that I have my 3 questions written, I can also format the text in here. So I'm just going to highlight all of them, change the font here. I can adjust the size. And again, I can bold, italicize, or underline. I'm going to bold. Now my students will be responding in these spaces. I'd like them to be a different color. So I simply click in them and I go to the fill bucket and I want them to be that same light yellow. I want to be consistent for my students so they know that the light yellow is where they will respond. So now when I look at this, I can see that it is ready for students to respond. However, what I don't want is the borders. So simply click in, highlight everything, and go to your border color and make it transparent. Making it transparent will remove the borders. If you want to keep the borders, you can also change the colors as well as the weight. Since I do not want the borders, I'm going to highlight, come to the border color, and click transparent. Now that I clicked off of the table, I can see that I have the question followed by the text boxes. Keep in mind, when students respond in here, the text area will expand for them. So if they need to add additional lines, it will automatically do so for them. In this other space here, I have another question that I want to ask my students. So I need to add another text box. Again, once it's typed in there, I can highlight it, change the font size, as well as the font. And now I need a place for my students to respond. So again, I can do that with a shape, the rounded rectangle, draw it in, use the fill bucket to change the color, as well as the border color and the border weight. So technically this is now ready to send to students. However, to change the background so it looks a little bit more fancy, like this one, make sure nothing is selected on your slide. The easiest way to do that is just to click in the gray area and click background and choose image. I'm going to do a Google image search. In this case, I want some parchment paper. Find one that you like and click insert. Click done. You can see I now have a parchment paper background for my students. If you want, you can put a prompt in here for your students to let them know where you would like them to type. To assign this to students in your Google Classroom, simply click Create, Assignment, add a title, any instructions, and click Add from Google Drive. Remember, your Google Drive will go to any recent documents that you've used, but you can always search for it. There it is there. I select it, it's highlighted in blue, and I click Insert. Once it's been added to your Google Classroom assignment, be sure you change this to make a copy for each student. This will give every single student a copy of the slides so that they can interact with it individually. Make sure it has a title and instructions, assign to your classes, give it a point value, a due date, a topic, and then simply click Assign. And that's how you can create an interactive Google slide for your students to complete during remote learning.